all I can think is that there's a family in Phoenix, Arizona right now greatly suffering. There's a baby boy who's still sleeping in a crib. There's a toddler girl who have no understanding that they will never know their father. And there's a mother who's trying to raise them. Any mother who goes from having a two-parent intact family to losing the father will be overwhelmed with grief suddenly, losing him suddenly in particular, overwhelmed with grief and with the newfound responsibilities, which are no longer shared at all. So not only do you have to still raise these children and be ever present for them, but you have to do it while you're massively grieving, and all the responsibilities just got divided, that in large part were divided, are now all yours at your most vulnerable and weakest. Erica Kirk, I assume it was Erica, I saw it like third party, but posted this video of their baby boy in his crib and their toddler girl going over to him and singing Jesus Loves Me just a couple days ago. Look at this, Stu. His sister's hands. That's a lot to take in. They are never going to know their dad. They're never going to have Charlie Kirk to walk them down the aisle or give them the talk before they take a gal down the aisle, or see their children through their grandparents' or their father's eyes. Like none of it. That little boy bouncing up and down in that crib, just like we've all seen our babes bounce up and down in their cribs. So she's singing. It's like Charlie's never going to get any of those moments. I don't get it. I'm thinking of like, who can I not stand the most on the left? Like who do I really loathe? There's a few media personalities in particular. Okay. I'm not going to name them. But I would never wish anything bad to happen to them. I would never wish for them to get hurt, never mind die. And God forbid they ever got attacked. I would never celebrate it. I would shed tears for them. I would. Like, especially people in our business who you spar with, it's like, it can get ugly at times, but like to have that level of hatred and inhumanity in you, what you said sticks out to me. 50 to 70. Wait, can you say the stat again?
Yeah.
That communication between people, like person to person, young people, has gone down 50 to 70%.
Yeah, people hosting events and hanging out with each other, and just face-to-face time with other human beings has dropped among young people 50 to 70%. And I believe it's over the entire American population. It's over 20%. And those are
because of this thing. It's this thing.
Yeah.
This thing did it. Mm-hmm. The iPhone.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but that was caused by Steve Jobs. It's back to this debate we've all been having ever since 2007 when it hit. Has this thing done more harm than good, or the opposite? I have my map on my phone. It makes driving so much easier for people who don't have directions like me. In there, it can't follow directions. You can get a photograph of your children in the bed, in the crib very easily. Like all those things. Email, text, work from home. We no longer see people. We no longer talk to each other. We're shooting each other up. We're celebrating each other's murders. I'm sorry, but I think it's directly related to that rectangle we all walk around with in our pocket.
I completely agree that this is a massive component of it. I mean, read the Jonathan Haidt book that came out recently, The Anxious Mind, I believe it's called. I mean, the stats in there are just shocking. As a parent who has, kids in this age, which they are constantly begging for phones and want them all the time and want their own phone. And I'm out of, I look around even at my school, which is a conservative leaning school. Most kids, my kids are 14 and 12. Most of them have phones. And, our kids don't at this point, but it's a hard thing to hold out for parents. And if you think about how badly adults are handling this, how much society has changed and how human interaction has changed among adults, you think about what this must be doing to our kids. I mean, you look at the suicide rates and all of these other things, not to mention just brain rot that is happening. That's a massive component. And I think we could look at this and say both conservatives and liberals are both pretty guilty of just giving our lives over to these devices without really any thought, hours and hours and hours a day. And I think there is effect on both sides. But I do think that the effect is really exaggerated on the left. And partially, I think it's because the lack of personal connection, the not seeing each other as human, works together with the idea of collectivism, unfortunately, into a really bad recipe. Because when you think,
and with one other thing, the loss of faith.
And the loss of faith is massive among that. When you lose that personal connection, the personal foundation to a higher power, and then you combine that with collectivism, which is basically, largely an idea of seeing people as members of groups rather than individuals, right? That concept, which I also believe leads to racism and anti-Semitism and so many other terrible things, because even when you see that stuff on the right, it's always in a collectivist mindset. You're seeing these people as just this, hey, there's this giant glob of people and they're responsible for it, rather than seeing them as individuals who you would be sad for when their children lose their father. Like, when you just see him as this, and you see Charlie as this guy who was leading this movement toward things that I don't like in politics, it's a lot easier to go out and, do these terrible things and mock his death and all of this when you're not seeing him as an individual. This is a person who, maybe he did like lower taxes than you. Maybe he did like lower regulation levels than you want, and maybe his healthcare subsidy level was different than yours. These aren't things that should make you cheer his death. That is a low hurdle to clear, and one I believe for a really long time we were able to clear, at least as long as I've been alive. Over the past few years, maybe accelerated by COVID, certainly accelerated by technology, and just wild, left-wing ideologies, we crossed a line that it doesn't seem like we're able to make those distinctions anymore. We're not able to just say, hey, like, I don't like that. I don't like any of your ideas, but gosh, that's terrible what happened to you. There were some on the left that were able to hit that hurdle, but far too few.
Well, I do think your points about collectivism and then the point about faith explain what's happening. Explain why this is happening on the left, but not the right. Because the right wing has young kids. The right wing has college-age kids. The right wing has 18 to 24-year-olds right now who are not doing this. So why? Why not? And I do think, it's not to say they've never had a shooter that age and so on come from the right wing, but I'm just saying in general, right-wing families are connected with faith. I mean, honestly, it's one of the reasons why the whole Tyler Robinson mystery is so bizarre, because while he was a leftist, he came from a right-wing family. And I don't know what role faith played in their life. Just because you're right-wing doesn't necessarily mean you're a family of faith. But I do think that the more you remove faith from your life, the more you replace it with false gods like wokeism, which is extremely damaging. It's basically the same thing as catching, not that it's contagious, but I mean as getting anorexia, like a disease that will eat you away from the inside. You do it to yourself. You kill yourself day by day by day by choice, by believing in things that aren't true. That's what these kids suffer from. That's the collectivism. And then, if you fill up that space with a belief in God, in Jesus, in being redeemed from sin, and also just belonging to a community, then you don't have the need to turn to Antifa to work out your need to feel like you belong. Now, every time I see one of these kids out there, and we always get inevitably the follow-up piece on how they're all rich, how they all have endless supply cards at Starbucks and they have expensive laptops. Here's some of the fire that we saw last night at the event. Don't know exactly what that is, but not exactly a peaceful protest. They're all rich. They're all privileged. 9 times out of 10, I guarantee you the parents are paying no attention to them. They're really just ornaments, like you'd see on a fancy car hood. And so they need this. They need to go out there and do something crazy to make themselves feel like they matter. I mean, if we're really talking this through, it comes down to a basic parenting fucking fail, right? Like, stay in touch with your kid, have family dinners, go to church, stay on top of his well-being, including and arguably especially when he goes away to college. And by the way, the Tyler Robinson situation, if he goes away to college and winds up living with a trans furry who's allegedly famous for growing mold in plastic Tupperware containers throughout the apartment and hoarding to the place where he looks like he's living in a dumpster or an actual landfill, maybe get more involved in checking on his wellness. I mean, truly, the well-being of society depends on it. It's the one time of year that Birch Gold Group gives away free gold with every qualifying purchase. That's right. For Black Friday, when you convert an existing IRA or 401k in whole or in part into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold, Birch Gold will send free gold to your home for every $20,000 purchased. Gold started this year around $2,600 an ounce. By October, it was over $4,000 an ounce. Why? Global uncertainty. 2025 has been defined by trade wars. Central banks are pulling from the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency, and military tension continues to build. Gold thrives in times of uncertainty, and if you are looking to diversify your savings, Birch Gold can help you. Plus, now through November 30th, get free gold with a qualifying purchase. Just text MK to the number 989898 to claim your eligibility and for a free info kit on gold. But your opportunity for free gold with purchase will end on November 30th. So don't wait. Text MK to the number 989898 for full details. Message and data rates may apply. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.